All right, that's going to be the final here. 82 to 70. Hey, let me hit the live button. Sorry. I'll get this thing going here. Sorry, we're professionals around here. Okay, going live. Okay, we should be live. All right, guys, welcome back. We're going to do a little bit of a post-game reaction to Creighton versus Auburn here in the South region. This region, like the announcers were talking about, this region's pretty loaded. It's got a lot of good talent. Auburn's going to face Michigan here in a couple days, and I think that matchup has the makings of being an all-time classic one, where just like last time in the Sweet 16 when when Michigan met a team that they were like underdogs to, Jordan Poole sunk a three at the buzzer to win it. A lot of people will forget that one because I think Michigan was... They're the eighth. Like Texas Tech, I just remember was the 3rd seed, and I think Michigan was either the 6th seed or the 8th seed. Like they were not favored at all. But here we go. Michigan and Auburn. They're going to play in a couple days. Sorry, let me gather my thoughts here as we start this thing up. My biggest takeaway for how this game ended up transpiring was, oh my gosh, Creighton came out of the gates slow there in the second half. So halftime score, Creighton was up, and I think that's going to be something. I think that is a reoccurring trend here in some of these games that I've watched. Is the Aggies were up at halftime, Creighton was up at halftime. Gosh, it's already slipping my mind. Who was the first game that we watched today? McNeese was never up. Like, Purdue was rolling him. Oh, St. John's in Arkansas. Like, halftime, and again, this is why Houston's up 33-24 right now. BYU's up 47-36 against Wisconsin. Like, they're shooting them out of the gym right now. But the truth is, these halftime scores really do not mean anything unless you're up by 20 and you're blowing the team out. Like, there are those instances, and we have seen those games so far in this tournament. But my goodness, Creighton came out cold to start the second half. They were not shooting. It took like 4 or 5 minutes for Cockbrenner's slam dunk to finally be the first points of the second half. Starting of the second half too. Also, I did write it down. Okay, don't troll me too bad. Auburn started the second half on an 18-4 run, and nobody, whether it was McAndrews, Ashworth, Cockbrenner, nobody could buy a basket. Neal was struggling tremendously. He did start to catch his juice again after there was that breakaway. Now this is when they were getting within 7, and it was closer game, and Neal had that slam dunk. That's when he started to get his mojo back after the foul trouble, when he was getting fouled left and right, and he went to the line for a couple baskets. But yeah, that's how the second half started out. Auburn 18-4 run, and then all of a sudden, Auburn was dealing with their lingering injuries. Baker got injured, but his impact wasn't too scarce for the Tigers because Auburn just kept on scoring and Creighton wasn't doing anything. But then there with, again, that 12 minutes to 7 minute swing, like right there in the second half when game's almost over, Creighton caught fire. They got a quick 3 and a couple 2s, and they went on a 7-0 run. And I think what people will probably remember for the rest of this game, which, by the way, quick update on the Houston versus Gonzaga game. There's 45 seconds to go. It is 35-27. Houston's taking care of business right now. But Creighton had a big scoring drought there in the second half where there was a solid 5 minutes of game time. They did not score any buckets. And I think that's why they lost this one eventually. Yes, the score indicates 70-82, and that's a 12-point spread. But those 5 minutes where they did not score, and then they finally went on a 7-0 run, and they got it within 7 points where, hey, we exchange a couple more 3-pointers and this thing's close, and we could get an upset here. I think that damage is what did it in. And then at the foul line, we had a couple free throws, making it 65-72 with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. But then towards the very end, Creighton couldn't get their shots to fall. Auburn kept going to the line, getting fouled. Pettiford, he turned it on. He had another great game, which let's start to look at the stats a little bit. Let me see here. Let me see the stats here. Let's go to the stats here. Sorry. Here we go. All right. So, Janai Broom, he had 8 points. And again, this is kind of how it was with the Alabama State game where everybody else, Janai Broom might have a slow, quiet game. He had 14 points against Alabama State. He had 8 points tonight against Creighton. Like, kind of how I feared and what I thought for Auburn is going to be the team that carries Auburn to the Final Four if they're going to go, because to rely upon one player to just play his ass off and carry a whole team, kind of like how Melo did all the way back in the day for Syracuse Orange, it's impossible to expect that out of a player, especially in today's college basketball, today's just sports as it is, because I mean, Zach Edey. We saw Purdue. Purdue jumped on his back, and Edey carried him all the way. And then look at what happened. Like, Zach Edey had a hell of a game in the national championship, but it still wasn't enough because everybody else on UConn, it's like, okay, we'll single cover you, but, you can go one-on-one with us, but you're not going to stop our best guys. And we saw what happened. That game was over by halftime. It was not a close one. So with Broome, I think Broome's bound to have a breakout game, and it might be the Michigan game coming up here. And if not the Michigan game, and they can get past the Michigan game, maybe in the Elite Eight, that's when it feels like where Cooper Flagg has had a breakout game, where, gosh, who else are some other big? I mean, Sanders for BYU, he's had a breakout game. Donaldson for Michigan, he's had a breakout game. A lot of these players are having their big games. I mean, Cockburner, he was keeping Creighton in it. He had tonight, he had 18 points, which led the Blue Jays. But it's the bench and the depth of Auburn that stepped up big in this game. And again, coming off of the bench, again, look at that. Pettiford, he had 23 points. And he did the same thing again the other day. Johnson off the bench, he had 8 points. Baker Mazzara, he had 17, but then he got subbed out because he was dealing with a lingering injury, which, hopefully, I think he'll be fine. I think the other thing strategically too was we're doing good, we're fine. We don't need to injure our players by keeping them out there and forcing them out there. Jones had 15, Cardwell had 6, and so yeah. In total, all of them combined together, 82 points. Zugic, off of the bench for Creighton, he had 10, so there was a spark there. McAndrew, in the first half, he was playing phenomenal. He had 12. Now, the thing, though, that I will say for Creighton and their three-point shooting ability in the first half, it's in the second half where that ended up being costly for them because I didn't see a lot of three balls falling in the second half when they went on that 5-minute drought. McAndrew, he was missing some. Neal, again, like I was talking about, he was missing a couple. I want to say in the second half, oh gosh, probably their biggest player was, Ryan Cockburner, but I mean, it is what it is. All right, people, but that is going to be it for this one. Yeah, we're noticing it in a lot of these games, and I kind of feel silly talking about it and explaining it, but we're noticing it when you have a scoring drought and you can't swing momentum, you lose a game. We saw the 24-point swing with Michigan and Texas A&M where, the Aggies were up big, and then Michigan stormed back, cut the lead, and then they took their own 10-point lead, and the Aggies just couldn't catch up because of the swing and momentum. We saw where St. John's, they couldn't buy a bucket, and that's why they ended up losing in the second half. Creighton, they went on a 5-minute scoring drought, but then they kind of tried to chip away at it, but it was too much, and Auburn just couldn't be stopped. We're going to see it here in the second half between the BYU Cougars and Wisconsin Badgers, and we'll see it in the second half, too, between Gonzaga and Houston, where if those same trends on how basically all of these games are going, which kind of makes sense, BYU better be careful, because if they fall into, the trend of how it's kind of been these last few games, it doesn't matter. Wisconsin's going to win that one because first half is one thing, second half's a whole different ballgame. So, anyways, guys, sorry for the yapping. We're going to end the stream there, but I hope you guys enjoy. Hit that like button. Come back and check for post-game of, I think we'll do a post-game reaction because BYU and Gonzaga are ending at the same time. I might do, well, it's 6:35 right now. Let me see the scoreboard here. We have one more game. Okay. Because Texas Tech and Drake, we're not going to talk about that until later tonight because I didn't watch the game, but Texas Tech belt to ass, 77-64. UCLA and Tennessee, that game's going to start in 30 minutes. So that game's going to start at 7 o'clock. That game's probably going to be over an hour and a half, 2 hours after 7 o'clock. So around 9 o'clock, I'd say. So we might do one more post-game reaction for Gonzaga and Houston. But then for BYU and Wisconsin, we'll talk about that when we do a wrap up tonight, as we talk about day 3 action with the round of 32. Because how I see it, there's no point in me doing a UCLA Tennessee postgame reaction when we still need to turn around and 10 minutes later do a wrap up and talk about the Michigan game, the Creighton game, the Arkansas game, and the McNeese versus Purdue game. Because it just we'll just talk about them all together. You know what I mean? Okay. Enough of me yapping. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll catch you in another stream. Peace.